They say every city hides a story so terrifying it never makes the news. A story that spreads only in hushed whispers late at night. This is the story of Daniel. Daniel was a young software engineer who had just moved to Hyderabad for work. He rented a small apartment near his office. Cheap, convenient, but something about the place felt wrong. But he was not sure what it was, and he brushed off the uneasy feeling, thinking it was just his mind adjusting to the new surroundings, new environment, and a new life. He had felt a similar eerie feeling when he had come to finalize the flat and to keep his luggage, but he didn't think much of it. He'd gone back to his hometown for an emergency and landed back here on a Monday, the day he was supposed to join the new company. He quickly showered, made coffee, and was about to rush out when he felt an ice-cold breeze hit him out of nowhere. In his rush, he took a pause, looked around, and did a quick scan. Despite all the lights being switched on and the windows being open in broad daylight, there was a sense of darkness in this house, which felt odd to Daniel, and his feeling of being unsettled increased when he kept staring into a certain corner of the hall, which was dark despite the lights and the broad daylight. He narrowed his stare into this dark corner, as if he was trying to find something in it. His eyes were now set on this corner, and he hardly blinked, as if he was hypnotized. As he zoomed his sight in this corner, his phone rang, startling him. It was his office. He had a quick chat and realized he was late on his first day to work. He quickly finished his coffee, and as he was about to lock the door on his way out, he had a quick glimpse of the corner again and headed out. He had forgotten about all this once he started working, and by the time he came back to his new flat, he was tired and went to sleep right away. On the very first night, as he tried to sleep, he heard it. Footsteps. Not in the corridor, not outside the window, but inside his room. He sat up, frozen, staring into the darkness, but there was nothing, just silence. He stayed up for some time, looking for the sound of the footsteps, but gradually fell asleep. He woke up the next morning, tired. As exhausted as he was also late. He didn't have time for breakfast, so he had a quick coffee and left for work. He came back home and went to bed straight away, same as last night. He again woke up in the middle of the night as he thought he heard footsteps and someone whispering to him from a distance. He lay there motionless but wide awake now. He was not able to move and lay paralyzed. After a few anxious minutes, he finally got up from bed and hurriedly switched on the lights. He sat there on the bed looking around and scared, but nothing happened. He eventually drifted off to sleep. The next morning, he woke up late again. Having hardly slept for 2 nights in a row, he was exhausted. And having no time for breakfast, he again had coffee and left for work. As he was leaving for work, he again thought he heard something from the same corner of his living room and kept gazing at it for a couple of minutes. He came out of the trance, locked the door, and left for work. These incidents kept happening on a regular basis now. At first, he thought it was his imagination. Stress from the new job, maybe. But the nights got worse. The footsteps returned. Doors creaked open on their own. And sometimes, he would hear someone whispering his name. Daniel spoke about this with his colleagues, but they laughed it off, saying it's probably the new environment to which he had to get used to, but inside, he was crumbling. No sleep, no peace. Weeks passed, and Daniel hadn't slept properly in days. His work began to suffer. His mood darkened. He couldn't tell what was real anymore. He started seeing shadows, not just at home, but in his office too. Dark figures standing at the corner of the room, vanishing the moment he looked directly at them. At one point, he realized he was staring into the same corner of the house for hours. And then suddenly, he felt something stepped out of that corner, a large, shadowy figure. He quickly closed his eyes and turned around. But he felt something drag itself to him and stood there just behind him, breathing on his neck. Daniel suddenly woke up at the same spot and realized he had fainted out of fear. Hallucinations, he thought. Maybe he needed rest, but rest never came. One night, as the rain hammered against his window, Daniel was tossing around in his bed when he heard the sound again. He turned, and for the first time, he saw it clearly. A tall, faceless shadow standing right at the foot of his bed. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Daniel couldn't breathe. His body refused to move. And then it whispered, "You can't leave." The next morning, Daniel's door was found wide open. His belongings were still there. His phone, his wallet, everything. But Daniel himself, gone. It was like he left everything behind and went away. A couple of days passed and no one heard of him. His friends and colleagues tried searching for him, but to no avail. Eventually, they noticed there was a CCTV camera in the corridor, which seemed to be able to capture the front door of the flat. When they checked the footage, they were shocked to see what happened to him. On the night he had vanished, it was raining heavily, and there seemed to be dark shadows moving in and out of the apartment, though the door was closed. At around 12 in the night, the door suddenly opened and there was Daniel. He stood there at the door, motionless, just staring into emptiness. After an hour, he turned around and sat in front of the corner, at which he was staring at since he shifted to this apartment. What happened next sent shivers down everyone's spine. It was beyond their comprehension, and there was no way they could explain what had happened. At 3:33 in the night, Daniel suddenly stood up and stretched out his hand towards the dark corner. There was nothing there yet. Daniel seemed to talking to someone in the corner. When they zoomed in on the footage, what was horrifying. They saw a dark, shadowy person standing in the corner who looked like Daniel himself. It was as if his own shadow had come to life. His shadow was looking into Daniel's eyes with an evil grin and pulling his body into the darkness. And eventually, Daniel was pulled into the dark corner. They played the rest of the footage till sunrise, but there was no sign of Daniel again. But just before sunrise, they saw a dark, shadowy figure come out of the same corner and go back in again. Just like that, they saw the rest of the footage till the current date, and no one came in or out of the apartment, and the door was wide open all the time. But yes, the shadowy figure would abruptly appear for a few seconds and then disappear again. It was concluded that Daniel wasn't being haunted. He was being possessed. And he has vanished into what can only be explained as some sort of portal. Daniel's house has been empty ever since. His belongings are still inside, and it was never rented out to anyone again. And Daniel remains the only one to have moved into this brand new house, and the last one as well. This is the story of the haunted flat. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more haunted tales.